All right, we have news coming in. MEA condemns the attack on Hindu devotees. The Ministry of External Affairs say we condemn attacks of violence perpetrated by extremists and separatists at the Hindu Sabha Temple in Brampton, Ontario yesterday. We call on the Government of Canada to ensure all places of worship are protected from such attacks. We also expect that those indulging in violence will be prosecuted. We remain deeply concerned about the safety and security of Indian nationals in Canada. The outreach of our consular officers to provide services to Indians and Canadian citizens alike will not be deterred by intimidation, harassment and violence. This is the Ministry of External Affairs here in India putting out a stern statement condemning this. Let me bring in Milind Sharma joining us for more on that. Milind, take us through the Ministry of External Affairs sending out a stern message to Canada asking for places of worship to be protected against all odds. Give us a little more in detail on the attacks that happened on Hindu temples, on Hindu devotees, and has there been any response from the Canadian government so far?
Well, Nabila, in terms of response from the Canadian government, there have been MPs who have spoken against these attacks, but it seems to be a very small lip service because the way these attacks have been perpetrated on Hindu Canadians clearly shows how their interest, their community is not being protected over there. Even Justin Trudeau has responded on X to this attack, but clearly staying short from taking the name Khalistani supporters or Khalistani perpetrated attacks, because that is where the crux lies. These protests were pre-planned. People were gathering near the Hindu temples, and nothing was done by the Royal, Canadian Mounted Police, which was stationed at the area as well. So clearly, more needs to be done when it comes to the credibility of the Canadian government in order to safeguard the interests of the Hindu Canadians, who also form a very large part of the Hindu diaspora. And to protect them, at least they have letters, as we discussed earlier. So, protection should be given to at least Hindu religious places of worship that are being taken as soft targets by Khalistanis to protest against the Nijja killing there. Back to you.
All right. Well, we're looking at the Ministry of External Affairs that's now come out outrightly condemning the attacks on Hindu devotees. MEA says we condemn the acts of violence perpetrated by extremists and separatists at the Hindu Sabha Temple in Brampton, Ontario yesterday. We call on the Government of Canada to ensure that all places of worship are protected from such attacks. We also expect that those indulging in violence will be prosecuted. We remain deeply concerned about the safety and security of Indian nationals in Canada. The outreach of our consular officers to provide services to Indians and Canadians alike will not be deterred by intimidation, harassment and violence. A clear-cut message there. Milind, while the Ministry of External Affairs has sent out a stern message, a warning of sorts, has there been any response on the police inaction? Of course, we see images there where some of the cops are pinning down Hindu devotees. And many of them who witnessed this live claim that this was uncalled for because the clashes were instigated and perpetuated by the Khalistani mob. So instead of actually schooling them, it was some of the Hindu devotees who were pulled up and even taken into custody. So any word on the police inaction?
Nabila, it's a very strongly worded statement there from, the Ministry of External Affairs. You can see how much of it has been spoken about in terms of how these incidences are not being checked by the Canadian government, of course. And when you talk about the role of the police, definitely the Royal Canadian Mounted Police has not been acting on these Khalistani elements and the way that they have been perpetrating violence. In fact, we saw a George Floyd moment completely where one Hindu Canadian was actually pinned down by the Canadian police. And the Peel Region, police station where this incident has occurred has said that they cannot stop people from protesting in the name of freedom of speech and right to protest. But look at the way that the protest is taking place. It's turning violent, and the police is doing nothing to stop the attacks and assaults perpetrated on the Hindu Canadians by the Khalistanis. And in return, they are attacking the Hindu Indians who are appealing that these sort of protests should not happen near Hindu religious places, while letting the Khalistanis scot-free. And no inquiry or action has been taken on them. I believe that there have been no arrests that have been made in this particular matter either yet, Nabila, which is quite shameful to say, because the visuals are there for everyone to see.
Absolutely. It's video proof that should ideally prompt the Canadian police and the government alike to condemn this, but we've really not seen outright condemnation from government authorities, and being complicit about the police inaction itself shows that there isn't an intent to protect the Hindu community there. And those concerns and worries that the Hindu community has is legit. At least from the looks of it, the videos that now surface clearly shows how the cops in Canada have thoroughly failed. Thanks very much, Milan, for joining us.